O island in the sun, willed to me by my father's hand, all my days I will sing in praise of your forest waters, your shining sun. Hello and welcome to Carlos Castaneda, The Wheel of Time, the wisdom of the shamans of ancient Mexico. I'm going to be interpreting quotes from one of my favourite books, the second book in the Castaneda series called A Separate Reality, and I'm going to finish the last few quotes in that book and then move on to quotations from the next book, which is called Journey to Ixtlan. So, leaving off from where we left off before, starting off from where we left off before. We talk to ourselves incessantly about our world. In fact, we maintain our world with our internal talk. And whenever we finish talking to ourselves about ourselves and our world, the world is always as it should be. We renew it, we rekindle it with life, we uphold it with our internal talk. Not only that, but we also choose our paths as we talk to ourselves. Thus, we repeat the same choices over and over until the day we die. Because we keep on repeating the same internal talk over and over until the day we die. A warrior is aware of this and strives to stop his internal talk. So this gets to the very crux of sorcery or shamanism, at least Toltec shamanism, Don Juan's world. To access Don Juan's world, to gain entry into the sorcerer's world, a shamanic state of consciousness, we have to halt the internal dialogue. The longer we can do this, the more of a gap we can create between one thought and the next. We sever that chain by breaking the link of thought, of the continuum of thought. We break the pattern, so to speak, through the practice of internal silence. And there are various techniques to do this. One of the most effective, or the most effective, is meditation. Power plants and certain drugs can also accomplish this, but the problem with using artificial aids is, even power plants, is that we can only sustain the halting of the internal dialogue for as long as the plant takes effect, and we will continue to have to use that substance in order to maintain the stoppage of the internal dialogue, which can lead to problems, addiction, psychosis, and a derangement of the senses, and it leads to a loss of clarity. So we don't want that. We have to, there is really no substitute for discipline, because internal silence is the only way where we can access presence, where we can access all of the energy and information which is in the present moment. That doesn't mean we don't think or that we don't make plans or projections, but we use the mind as a tool to plan, to conceptualize, but we don't allow the mind to run us by overly identifying with the content of our thinking, because it's thinking that is the source of most of our problems. How we think about things, how we react to things, how our thoughts create certain emotions which can usually are negative and which are counterproductive to progress, because one requires a lot of energy in the warrior's path. And the best way to access this energy is through cultivation. And the crux or the cornerstone of this cultivation is the practice of stopping the internal dialogue and trying to prolong that silence, that internal silence, for as long as possible. Because each day we are repeating the same choices over and over, creating the same circumstances, the same events, the same reactions to those events. And thus, it's no wonder that we suffer the same mental and psychological symptoms. So, we have to become aware of how our thinking, our internal talk, is upholding this narrative, this negative view of the world, and strive to halt its flow, so to speak. The world is all that is encased here. Life, death, people, and everything else that surrounds us. The world is incomprehensible. We won't ever understand it. We won't ever unravel its secrets. Thus, we must treat the world as it is, a sheer mystery. So, I'm going to quote Don Juan again when he says that a warrior doesn't demean the mystery of the world by attempting to rationalise it. Now, it's so easy, especially if you're an intellectual type, to become a victim of your own clarity. Linear thinking, concepts, theories, hypotheses, thesis, books, metaphysics, abstractions. All these conceptualizations are functions of the mind, and they can be employed to serve us well. But at the same time, we mustn't become overly identified with the concepts, with the maps, which only point to the territory. It's like the finger pointing to the moon. We don't become obsessed with the finger, because we will miss all the heavenly glory, as Bruce Lee says in Enter the Dragon. Well, you've seen it, huh? So, the world, the universe, ultimately, all phenomena, all manifestation, all that is happening in the manifest world is a mystery. Ultimately, it is so. We won't ever fully understand it through thinking about it, through talking about it. We can only experience it directly. And that experience is mysterious in its true nature. The things that people do cannot under any conditions be more important than the world, and thus a warrior treats the world as an endless mystery, and what people do as an endless folly. No matter what people do in the world, all the ups and downs of our fellow men, the good times, the bad times, the progress and the setbacks, the building and the destroying, the piety and the corruption, the rise and fall of empires, technology, and it's becoming obsolete. Everything is always changing. So it's all folly. It ultimately doesn't lead to any conclusion other than its own continual transformation and evolution. That is its purpose. The purpose is that process of unfolding, manifestation of form in the universe. So that's what's important. The fact that we are all evolving, and that the universe itself, in its manifestation, in its phenomena, is evolving. That's what's important. The fact of that evolution, not whether what a person does is good or bad, or the simple morality which is particular to culture and ideology and that sort of thing. I mean, that's also part of the unfolding of the evolution. But it's folly in the sense that that folly is not its ultimate purpose. You see? So what is happening is the evolution, and good needs bad, rich needs poor. Everything needs its opposite in order to exist and subsist. See? So it's all part of the folly, the Maya of form. So that's the end of A Separate Reality, and now we're moving on to the third book of the series, called Journey to Ixtlan, which is one of the more practical books about the warrior's path in Don Juan. We hardly ever realise that we can cut anything out of our lives, any time, in the blink of an eye. The continuity of thought of the internal dialogue exposes us to the idea that we cannot drop anything, that everything must be resolved through its continuation, through continual identification with problems, with solutions, with acts and their resolutions. But we hardly ever come to the realization in our moments of silence that anything can be dropped. The Don Juan says that a warrior strives to erase his personal history. And part of this erasure is letting go of the past, of our history, his story, letting go of narratives that we keep in our head about how things should be, about how one should act, about how other people should act, and what our responses will be. We can drop our conditioning. We can let go of our acculturation. And it takes a certain amount of energy to see this, to see it as an energetic fact, to be able to do this. It's simply a matter of having the required amount of energy to do it, because the seeing of it in its whole structure of being, its whole structure, the seeing of that is the dropping of it. And that dropping is the resolution of it, not its continuity. One shouldn't worry about taking pictures or making tape recordings. Those are superfluities of sedate lives. One should worry about the spirit, which is always receding. Now the Spirit is always present. It's here, all around us, within us. There is no moment of existence in which the Spirit is not present. In fact, the Spirit is present in every particle of the universe. Every particle of the universe has some form of sentience, of feeling, of apprehension, experience, and imperience. So, knowledge, true knowledge, is the awareness, the awaring of the Spirit, that everything is Spirit, that everything is animated by Spirit. We are obsessed with recording things, memories, photographs, which keeps everything static, contained within a frame of time and space. Right? But reality is dynamic, flowing, ephemeral. So in a sense, to get caught up in recording that, because when you record something, you've already missed it, you see. So you're not here and now, you're not fully present. And so it becomes a superfluity of a sedate life. See? One should worry about the Spirit, which is always receding. In other words, if you don't pay attention to the Spirit, if you don't believe in the Spirit, if you don't feel the Spirit, is it any surprise that it will go away? Personal history must be constantly renewed by telling parents, relatives and friends everything one does. On the other hand, for the warrior who has no personal history, no explanations are needed. Nobody is angry or disillusioned with his acts. And above all, no one pins him down with their thoughts and their expectations. Again, one requires a tremendous amount of energy and awareness to be able to perceive what it means to act without a trace, to act without the burden of the past pulling you down like a heavy bag. No explanations are needed if nobody knows about your history, if nobody knows who you are, if you don't owe anybody, you have no debts, no explanations are needed. None. And nobody is disillusioned or angry with you. You're acting out of the purity of essence. You're not burdened down with other thoughts and expectations. You tell everything to everyone about everything you do. And that creates an impression in people's minds. And whether you like it or not, you become imprisoned by their thoughts and their expectations. So it's getting to the 20-minute mark, and we'll leave it there for this week. Thanks for listening. If you've got any comments, please leave them, because I'm always interested to know what you think and feel about Don Juan's wisdom and my interpretations. So, thanks again. Bye for now.